The cinemas are dying. At least, according to the internet. How many times in recent months have you seen things like box office flop and bombing the opening weekend thrown around? What does it mean? Should we be saying goodbye to our favorite pastime of going to the movies? In this video, we're gonna take a closer look at what exactly is happening to the film industry and what is the main reason everyone is worried. And to aid us with that, I compiled a little super fun spreadsheet, but we'll come back to that later. But first, we need to talk about the money. See, movies are a very expensive thing to make. Between writers, actors, crew, locations, equipment, extras, effects, marketing. It's not unusual to call a movie with a whopping 5 million budget a small indie production. Not to mention the big blockbusters we see on a regular basis. 100 mil, not even breaking the ceiling for the most expensive movie ever made. And where does the money come from? Well, to simplify it, most of the movies you can see in a theater are either made by the big players, the Disneys, the Universals, the Warner Bros., or by a smaller indie production companies. The difference? One tends to spend much more money than the other, but that doesn't necessarily mean they get bigger return on their investment. Because for a movie to break even, it needs to earn around 2.5 times its budget. This is estimated number, it varies from production to production. And that's where the box office comes in. That's the amount a film makes on ticket sales. It doesn't take into consideration any other earnings, simply how much money people paid to actually see a movie in the theater. And what's important, a big box office doesn't necessarily mean that the movie is a big financial success. Productions that break the billion mark are oftentimes less lucrative than a horror flick that cost a few million but brought in several hundred million back. And that's our first point. Flop is relative. You should be very careful to judge a movie by just its numbers. But now that we know something about the economy of the film industry, let's see how producers ensure that their movie will be actually the one people want to see. Yep, you guessed it. Nothing puts butts in seats quite as a story that people are already familiar with. And because numbers are great and spreadsheets are fun, I did a little something. And please note, I'm not a data scientist, but I did try to make it as accurate as possible, and we're doing this for fun, so here we go. I took the 5 highest US grossing movies across 5 different years. See a common thread? Only 9 of those are not immediate sequels / entries in a long-running franchise. And even amongst those 9, some are based on a pre-existing and well-known piece of media. There's only a few you could consider actually original works. Is this a worrying phenomenon? Well, yes and no. Sequels and remakes are as old as movies themselves. We've been redoing media all along. Sure, it can feel sometimes like all we're served when we go to the movies is the same old stories, but that's always been the case. Think about your favorite classic movie. Chances are it's actually not an original, but some sort of derivation of another thing. It's almost like we all exist in the context of all in which we live or something. At the end of the day, as the industry grows and develops, financial success will matter. And producing another Marvel live action or Frozen 5 will make big bucks. That's just the reality. But there are so many new, wonderful stories being told. You just might need to turn into less marketed titles to find them. I promise you, it is worth it. Still, there is another argument for cinemas becoming obsolete, and this is the fact that it's becoming harder and harder to actually see the movie you're interested in on the big screen. You might even feel like you've just heard about a movie coming out and it's already available on streaming platforms. Well, you would be correct. Let's look at the spreadsheet again. The window between a movie premiere and it being available on online platforms has shrunk dramatically. And of course it has to do with the fact that online streaming platforms have become more and more popular, and the fact that we couldn't really go anywhere near a theater for about 3 years. But it does have an impact on the theatrical run as well. The movies, on average, are showing for shorter periods of time, and it's not a dramatic change, but is one nonetheless. If you don't live in a big town, you might be affected even more. Smaller theaters with limited screens might drop an obscure title in favor of the big blockbuster that's sure to bring in more people, sell tickets, and, gain profit. Add to it the increasing cost of living and the fact that not everyone can freely gamble their money on a movie they might not even like. This leads to more of the viewer's money being poured into those dreaded sequels. Think about it as a cake. The biggest piece is now served to the big players, and the rest is left fighting for crumbs. So, is that it? Are we doomed to the life of seeing only the few highest-grossing movies on the big screens and turning to the internet for the rest? Not really. The cinemas are changing, but they are not going anywhere. The first fun argument for that is that movie theaters are actually really hard to convert to anything else. Big, dark places with sloped floors and no windows. There's very few other things you can do with them, so it's actually pretty common for a cinema to just remain a cinema. So the physical spaces are not going to disappear overnight. As to what is being shown, that's a little bit more tricky. The only solid answer is we will probably see an emphasis of a more luxury experience. IMAX and Dolby screens are actually becoming more popular because customers are ready and happy to pay more money in order to have an experience they will not be able to replicate at home. And, as last year's Barbenheimer has shown us, people love an event. We all want to be a part of something fun. You would not be able to have that much of a cultural impact if you just stick your newest movie on Netflix and call it a day. So don't worry, you'll still be able to roll up to your local place and have a wonderful time. As for all the doom-proclaiming voices, my only advice is to not listen to too much of the online discourse and definitely do not let it affect whether you're gonna see a movie or not. Stay informed, sure, but see the things you want to see, things that make you excited. Then you'll be able to make your own opinion, and you don't have to care about what user 5096 thinks about the movie or how little money it made. After all, we come to this place because we love it, right? Thank you so much for watching. As usual, tell me about your experiences. Do you go to the cinema often? How it changed over the time for you, where you live? I'm very interested in hearing about your experiences and, hopefully we can still enjoy a good screening even in a decade's time. I'll catch you next time. See ya!